Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Dorr. I'm here with Julie Taylor from Fulbright. Today, she's going to be talking about Fulbright opportunities for research and teaching abroad. Before I turn it over to you, Julie, just a few housekeeping things. Julie's going to take us through a presentation, feel free to write your questions in the chat, or at the end of the session, you'll also have the opportunity to speak by raising your hand, but Julie will take us through the presentation first. All right, well, over to you, Julie.
Great. So thank you so much for having me, Sarah. And it's great to be back with ISA again this year. And I hope that all of you are interested in applying for opportunities to teach and conduct research abroad. So let's get started. As Sarah mentioned, I'm Julie Taylor, and I'm the Director of Academic Relations for the Fulbright program. And I work for the Institute of International Education, which is the organization that administers the U.S. Scholar Program. So Fulbright is a partnership with 135 countries. At least the U.S. Scholar Program is. Actually, when you're talking about Fulbright writ large, all of our different programs, it's a partnership with 160 different countries. And Fulbright offers passionate faculty, artists, and professionals from all backgrounds opportunities to teach and conduct research abroad. Now, when we talk about Fulbright, it's many different programs. So the one we're talking about today is a U.S. Scholar Program. Joel, who's also on the call, came to the U.S. with the Fulbright Foreign Student Program. So that's one of our inbound programs. Another inbound program we have is the Visiting Scholar Program. And then we also have a program that many of you may be familiar with, which is a U.S. Student Program. That's our other large outbound program. But the mission across all of the programs is the same, which is to foster mutual understanding between nations, advance knowledge across communities, and improve lives around the world. And that's actually really critical to your Fulbright application, and I'll talk to you more about that throughout the presentation. Now, there are 4 things that are sort of distinctive about the Fulbright program that would be different than a lot of the other opportunities that you may be looking at. And those are that, 1, we award over 800 fellowships a year, between 800 and 900, which makes us the largest fellowship program for U.S. scholars. There's actually 403 awards in the catalog for this year. So when I say this year, I mean the 24-25 competition, with the deadline of September 15th this year for 24-25. So we're the largest program, so we have lots of opportunities. And Fulbright is a public diplomacy program. It was established by Congress in the wake of World War II, and it's sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. It's literally a swords to plowshare program because it was built off of funding acquired through the sale of military equipment in Europe. It's sponsored by the State Department, which means there's a diplomatic mission to the program. It seeks applicants who foster engagement, forge lasting connections, and strive for long-term impact. Now, you may hear these words in association with lots of different programs, but this really is the core of the Fulbright program. But if you're someone who's just looking to extend your sabbatical or finally get time off to finish your book, or you need to be somewhere else and just sort of revive, especially after all the teaching and the years of COVID, there's still a place for you inside the program. Maybe you're not looking for a program in which you're signing up to be a diplomat of sorts. That's fine, because actually what we find is that people become this way by virtue of the program. There's something about the program that ends up making people end up really committing to the goals of the program, regardless of what kind of their original inclination was. But whatever your reasons are for applying, you do want to emphasize in your application the mission of the program and to make that front and center. So I like to tell people that the difference with a lot of other funders is that the project that you're describing, especially if it's a research project, for a lot of other funders, that is the main focus, is the viability of that project and what the outputs are going to be, the implications of your argument, things like that. All of that's important if you're describing something in a Fulbright application, but it's a means to another end. And that end really is the forging of the long-lasting connections, having an impact in the country that's going to be lasting, having an impact, bringing that back home with you and having an impact on your home institution and community. So that really needs to be the focus. The other distinction for Fulbright gets its own slide, which is that it's elite but not elitist. So obviously, this is the diversity statement for the US State Department for all of its programs, and I'll let you read that at your leisure. But the main thing to emphasize is that we're a program which represents the best of the United States abroad. And we wouldn't be doing that if we didn't have a very diverse cohort of people who were going out on the program. And my organization, the organization I'm with, the Institute for International Education, is asked by the State Department to ensure that there is a diverse cohort of candidates who apply every single year. So it's not a selection issue. They're not selecting on this, but it really is that they're looking for applicants who represent the best of the United States from all sorts of lived American experiences. So you could be somebody who is contingent faculty, emeritus faculty, tenure line, first in your family to go to college, naturalized US citizen, all kind of ethnic backgrounds. We want to represent the diversity of the United States. So why Fulbright? Well, Fulbright is transformational, and I say this because that is the #1 word that is used on the survey responses of our alumni, regardless of the program. So it fosters relationships that are real and lasting. We hear about this all the time, relationships that have gone on decades throughout people's careers. It expands their publishing network, and it doesn't just expand it. A lot of our awards, you'll find, like some of them are kind of you select the institution. You decide where you're going to go, but some of them are specific to an institution, and especially on those where those institutions have invested in that award, we see a real uptick in publishing with people from that university within 5 years of having a Fulbright award. Actually, there was an article that was written about this recently that that showed that there was a huge increase from 15% in the 5 years before to over 50% of the people who were at a particular publishing with people from their host institution in the 5 years afterwards. You become more multicultural in the classroom because nothing can really make you have more empathy for the diversity within your own classroom than experiencing what it's like to be the other yourself inside of a classroom and having to rely on other people to explain to you the way things are, how to get things done in a community, explaining, showing you all sorts of cultural differences. That's really more powerful than any type of training that you can receive at your home university. You serve as an ambassador for international exchange. You might not be signing up to do that, but people end up doing that eventually if they are a Fulbright alum. And you gain professional recognition of being a Fulbright scholar, and you join a vibrant alumni network. So there's the Fulbright Association here in the United States, but then also many of our commissions have their own Fulbright alumni associations. And by commissions, what I mean is that of these 135 countries, many of them have Fulbright commissions within them that then assist you when you're in the country. Or Fulbright affairs are handled by the embassy within that country, which we call the post. So why Fulbright? Fulbright is family friendly, especially compared to a lot of awards out there. So 60% of our awards provide some form of dependent support. It varies considerably by award. So you really, I'll emphasize it here, but also throughout the presentation, you really have to read the fine print on those 403 awards. You won't need to read all of them because they're not all applicable to you, but you really need to read through those awards in order to find out what's being offered because it varies. And many Fulbright dependents go on to have international careers. You know, since we're a public diplomacy program, that's one of the reasons why they're so supportive of dependents, because it's not just you who would end up serving as ambassador of the United States, it's also your kids or your partner. Fulbright is supportive. 70% of our applicants engage with IIE staff. So I'll show you on each one of the awards, you'll find over on the left side of that award online that there's a IIE contact person for that award. So you can reach out to them, but then we also have webinars, office hours. So through all these different means, people are contacting us. And then you can also contact the commission or post in country. Sometimes people contact the host institution. You have access to Fulbright alumni who are an incredible resource. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our alumni ambassadors at the end. They're people who are have signed up to discuss all sorts of personal and professional implications of the program that you might have questions about. But also, if you go to our Fulbright Scholar Directory, it's very useful because you can look up people at your institution who had a Fulbright and ask them questions. You can look up people who had the same award and went to that country. You can look up people who are visiting scholars from that institution who've come to the United States, because they're also alumni who are very interested in supporting people who are applying to the Fulbright program. So there's many different ways that our alumni serve as a great resource for you. In terms of eligibility, the main thing is that you need to be a US citizen. But beyond that, at the time of application, beyond that, a lot of it really depends on the awards. So on some of the awards, you can't apply if you're a dual citizen or a permanent resident of the country that you're going to, or have been to the country within the last year. If you've lived there within 6 months for 6 months, it just depends. You have to read each one of these awards to find out. For some of them, a terminal degree is required, a PhD, a JD. For others, it's an MA or higher ed, with higher ed experience or professional experience. Some of them are for professionals and people who are artists. And especially if it's a teaching award, there may be a certain amount of teaching experience that is required. There's compliance with policies on previous Fulbright Scholar Awards. So there's a 2-year waiting period between a Fulbright US Scholar Award and your next application. So you have to wait 2 years for that. But people have Fulbright Awards throughout their career. There is a preference that's given to people who do not have experience in that country or who are first-time Fulbrighters. Yes, there is a preference stated in the Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board policies. But we have people who've had multiple awards, and not just from when they were a student and then also when they're a scholar. I mean, multiple awards within the US Scholar Program. So which award is for you? go back to there. The majority of the awards in the catalog are scholar awards, and they vary along the lines that I mentioned. Then we have about 17 to 20, I forget what the number is right now, postdoctoral awards. So those are specifically designed for providing you training. They have, if there is teaching, it's very low. And they really are looking, those institutions, to connect you with their scholars early on in the hope that you will continue throughout your career working with these scholars and co-publishing with them, or maybe applying for grants together. So that's why they invested in postdoctoral awards. Then we actually have a category called early career scholars. So if you're looking at the postdoc awards, please look at the early career scholars, because there really isn't a substantial difference in many cases. There's distinguished scholar awards, and while men and women tend to apply kind of in even numbers to the program as a whole, what we find is that in the distinguished scholar category, that we have more male applicants than female applicants. So, ladies, please look at these distinguished scholar awards and consider applying. They tend to be the ones with they should be the ones with the greatest stipend for that country, within that country's catalog. And a lot of times they only require that you are an associate faculty member, or have a certain associate or full, and that you have a certain number of years of experience in the academy. So there's also International Education Administrator Awards. I'd be happy to talk more about those if you are an administrator during question and answer. So which award is for you? Well, there's a flex option on about 60 in 63 countries. And what that means is you can go for 2 to 3 visits and stretch it out over a 2-year period. That will hopefully provide you extra flexibility. Now, the shortest leg that you can take on one of those, on the flex option, is 1 month. And of course, you have to read the fine print, because all of this varies by country. But so it doesn't offer you the ultimate flexibility, but it is helpful. And you really have to look at the dates that it's allowed, the flex option, because that also varies by award. If you really have your heart set on an award and it offers a flex option, and the dates don't really work for you, for instance, you really need to take a summer leg and it doesn't mention that you can do that, then you should contact the IIE contact person, or the commission or post contact on that award, and ask them, because we've certainly seen many exceptions made. I'm going to skip down to the global and regional awards. So we have a global award. It allows you to go to multiple countries in multiple regions. That is our most competitive award. So if you're at all able to conduct your research by having a regional award, that's the one that you really want to apply for, because those tend to get fewer applications than the global award. It's harder for people to fit their research into this one. So the regional awards are also very interesting. And if you look on a lot of our awards, they will, for instance, in Asia, in East Asia, they offer a regional travel award. So you can get the award, for instance, I was looking at an award in Australia, and then you can go for a few days somewhere else in the region in order to go to a conference or attend a workshop, something like that. So also look for those opportunities on the awards. In terms of selecting the right award, I think all of this is pretty self-evident. let's see, I guess I'd mentioned the language ability. Most of the awards in the catalog, you don't need to have another language for. If you have a research project, you're going to have to explain how, if you don't have the language, how you can still do that project. Because people who are reviewing are looking at the viability of the project. And it is good to emphasize here that you can only apply for one award per application cycle. So in terms of understanding the awards, here's a picture of an award, but let me see if we can pull up the website. So if we can go up at the top on the blue line, Sarah, if you can go to awards, and then US Scholar Award search. And go over on the left to disciplines. There we go. And start typing in international relations. Oh, there we go. And go down to the bottom and you can search. So we've just gone from 403 awards to 45 awards. And what's included in this is things as broad as social sciences and the humanities, and then things as specific as, I like this one, the Fulbright Distinguished Chair in Applied Public Policy, Democratic Resilience. It's even more specific than that. So, so the social sciences and humanities, it's very open. The let's click on the Fulbright Distinguished Chair in Applied Public Policy in Australia at Flinders University. It's the second one. Thank you. So if you scroll down just a little, okay, so you see over on the left, we have the program staff person. And if you could scroll down a little more, Sarah, we have down here, going further, join an office hour, register for a webinar, explore the Scholar Directory. That's where I was saying you could find people maybe for more information on that award or place, or trying to get your kids in school in Finland. You know, they can answer all sorts of questions. And on your campus may be a Fulbright Scholar Liaison. That's an important person for you because they can serve as sort of institutional memory of the Fulbrighters who applied before. A lot of times this is a fellowship, not a grant. And so a lot of times your school may not have clear policies about applying for a fellowship, but the Fulbright Scholar Liaison may know, you know, what was the deal that, I don't know, that Caleb negotiated with his department, and what was the deal that such and such negotiated with their school. And that's really important for you to find that information before you begin your own negotiations if you receive an award, or if you want to find out whether or not people were being allowed to take leave in an off sabbatical cycle, for instance. So going back up to the top of the award, let's stop here. So this is just a summary of the award, very quick for you. So it has the award length is 5 months, so it's 1 semester. And it's open to mid-career and senior academics. And if you could scroll down. Further to award activity. So this is about as specific as you get on a Fulbright Award. They're looking for research that contributes to understanding the disruptive impact of the next wave of the cyber revolution in terms of social dislocation, and combating international and domestic efforts to use social media to weaken social bonds, to undermine trust and security in democratic societies, especially Australia and the United States. Now, that can be so specific that you might be a little reluctant to apply. Since it is so specific on an award like this, I suggest you reach out to someone for greater explanation on this, on what would be acceptable and what would not. But another thing that's interesting in this, if you could scroll down, is here's that special feature I was telling you about at the bottom, the Fulbright East Asia Pacific Regional Travel Program that allows you 3 to 14 days to go elsewhere in the region. And if you could go up to, back out of this page, back to the awards. Back to award search. Okay, yeah, great. So let's scroll down. There's the Diplomatic Academy, visiting professor of international studies in Austria. There, it's right above here. There we go. So this one is teaching and research. That other one was just research. It too is for a semester, but if you notice, it is open to early career academics. And if you scroll down, on a lot of these are only open for a semester. They typically start in January. Go down, please. And so it is a combination of teaching and research. Some of them allow you to choose between teaching and research. So, so that's something to also keep in mind. And the special feature here, which is a really important special feature that I'm hoping to change our catalog so you can actually search on it next year, is that they offer housing and meals. That is huge, because look at the amount of the stipend. If you could go to the top. And over to the left to award benefits. So it's 3,600 a month, approximately, because it's in euros. And then you're also getting the housing and the meals. So that is quite substantial. This one does not offer dependent benefits. The other one also did not. But you know, our teaching awards in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, they offer private school. You know, so as you can see, it obviously varies substantially. If you could stop sharing. So the application components that are most important, well, I mean, obviously they're all important, but there's an application form, there's a project statement, there are some short answers that you do for the project statement. Please be sure to fill those in, because the reason why they became short answers is that people were not answering them in the essay. And so we pulled it out so it would be easier for the reviewers. And sometimes people just don't pay attention to something that's short. I'm not exactly sure why, but please pay attention to those. A CV, 2 letters of recommendation. One of them can be from someone at your institution. And language proficiency report if required, and a letter of invitation. So a letter of invitation is not always required. In some cases, it's recommended. If it's recommended, try as much as possible. I suggest that you try as much as possible to get one, because even if it's just recommended that you get one, I think that when I've chaired the review committees, it does factor in when people are thinking about the viability of the project, that when they hear from the host institution that, yes, this project can be done at our institution, it just gives them more confidence overall in the project. That's just what I've noticed when I've chaired those committees. So, so a letter of invitation can take quite some time to get. And a lot of universities, especially in Europe, close down for the summer. It's very hard to reach folks. So that's one of the reasons why, if you're considering applying, and even though the deadline's September 15, you should be looking to try and get those letters of invitation now. So on the supplemental materials, if you're teaching, sometimes they'll ask for course outlines or syllabi. And most of the time, they're not referring to what is the syllabus you'll use for this class. They just want to see that you can write a good syllabus. But again, you have to check the particulars of that award. There's, and then if for artists, architects, and journalists, there is often a portfolio submission that is required. So the deadline to remember is September 15th. Then we go right into review. And the peer review in the United States, it occurs in October and November. Those are people from your discipline. If you're interdisciplinary, we try as much as possible to have people who have similar research reviewing your application. And you should be hearing about the decisions from that first round of review in November and January. Then between January and June, final decisions are made. So I have to say, we got to almost 90%. I think we were just under at the end of March. So most of them are coming in before then, but we always have stragglers. Some countries, maybe they didn't get an applications for one of their awards. And so what they're trying to do is to see sometimes if people will move around, move to other awards. It could be some hang up with the funding. There can be all sorts of reasons why they end up being delayed. So we try as much as possible to get them because we know it's important for your institution to get those decisions earlier, but just so you know the window on that. And then I'm going to leave this this slide in the slide deck so that you can click the link and see our alumni ambassadors. And they are open to discussing all sorts of information with you. They have, you can see bulleted under their names the types of issues like traveling with your kids. But they'll discuss all sorts of things, what it's like to be gay and dating in Georgia, what the concerns are there, what that's like, what, if you're a person of the same or different race than people in that country, then what is that experience like? How do you get your kids into the schools system, medical issues, all sorts of different things. So that can be a very helpful resource for you. And I did want to go over, since we have a bit of time, one other, these are other programs that we have that help you to bring Fulbrighters from abroad to your campus. So there's the Fulbright Scholar in Residence program. And in that program, you can designate someone or you can ask for us to find an expert in whatever field, if you wanted to do the elections in Turkey, for instance, then they can come and teach at your university for a semester or a year. And so that's an institutional application. You would apply, usually your department chair would sign on and your dean. And the costs of that are covered by the State Department. There is a preference that is given to community colleges and to minority serving institutions, but we have all sorts of institutions that apply for the Scholar in Residence program. There's also the Fulbright Outreach Lecturing Fund. And this is sort of the lowest hanging fruit in the Fulbright program. It's the easiest program to access. You can bring a current visiting scholar here in the United States to your campus to lecture for 2 to 6 days on their discipline or cultural topics. And you can find them on that website, the fulbrightscholars.org/OLF. You can click on there, and then there's another link on that site that takes you to the list of scholars and their disciplines. And this is a program that the State Department set up in order to get scholars who tend to congregate, they tend to do their awards, their visiting scholar awards on the West Coast or the East Coast. And this was an effort by the State Department to ensure that they see more than just that they see other parts of the United States and other types of US educational institutions. And I'm going to leave it there right now and open things up for questions. Hello.
Hi. I am an older student. I focus in the area of special education, post-secondary transitional ed. And I'm wondering, number one, how many opportunities or locations also look at that area of focus? And also, is there an age range for applying for the Fulbright?
No, there's no restrictions on age. And, but you said you're an older student, or
Yes.
you have a PhD or a terminal degree?
I am a second-year PhD.
Okay, so this is a good moment to talk about this. So, so if you're a student, then you apply through the Fulbright student program.
Okay.
Which is slightly different in that you apply through, so it's a different website, US student program, Fulbright program, and there's a Fulbright program advisor likely on your campus.
Okay.
If not, if there isn't, you can apply at large. But if you look up Fulbright program advisor, there's a page in which you can look up your advisor on your campus. Now, in the student program, you apply through that Fulbright program advisor. The deadline for that program is in October, but your campus will have an earlier deadline because there tends to be a review of those applications that occurs in order to help people with their applications. And then the FPA, the Fulbright program advisor, puts the application in for you. So so it's a different process. So there's if you're a PhD student, you should look at the Fulbright student program and apply through the Fulbright program advisor. Or there's also the Fulbright Hayes program, which has a doctoral dissertation research award, and it's for area studies in countries that are non-Western countries. So IIE doesn't administer that. That's administered by the Department of Education. So that is yet another website. Frequently, the Fulbright program advisor will know about Fulbright Hayes as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
We have another question on the Q&As.
Okay.
Says, when, if at all, is there going to be a next
The Arctic Initiative.
Initiative application?
Okay, let me think about that. So the Arctic Initiative, I am not an expert on, but it's a cohort. It's a cohort project, and so it combines a team of researchers from the U.S. and a team from Arctic countries. And we do it every 2 years, and I think it's coming up next year is the next Arctic round. And you work on research together. You sort of have your own projects, but they're supposed to be in collaboration with each other. So on the IEA award, so it's International Education Administrators Award. So if you are in your university's international office, then Germany is a country that might accept you for, if you are an administrative assistant. You would have to check with them. I'd say that if you're in an international affairs department, that isn't really what they're looking for, because the reason for this award is you go with a cohort of people who are involved in international education from several US campuses, and you go to a country for a 2-week seminar. So you travel around the country and you learn about their educational system, the types of institutions that they have. And it's sort of helping your institution to shop and see which universities you might be interested in having a relationship with. You might want to highlight to faculty when you get back is a good place for them to engage, just to give you more familiarity with the international exchange options in that country. So that's what that award is for. Great.
There is another question. It says, I am part of the Fulbright Hayes Curriculum Development Group grant for this year. When will I be eligible to apply for a personal grant?
That is a very good question. Here, can you? If you email me with that, I'll look into it, because it's hard for me to know because we don't run that program. It's run by Department of Education. And then I'm not sure if the FFSB policy applies across those programs. Sorry about that, but I may have to ask someone over at Hayes. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you will consider, maybe checking into one of our office hours. If you still have questions, checking one of our office hours. You also we're kind of winding down our webinars for the year, but there are a lot online that may be specific to a region that you're interested in, or environmental studies, or some type of subdiscipline that you're interested in. And feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I hope to see you all at ISA next year.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julie, for your insightful presentation. And thank you very much to our audience for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.